Hi, my name is Kristin Alexander, and today I'm going to present on how emotions impact the decision to trust and why it matters. So this is just an introduction into what I'll be talking about. There has been a lot of research on the relationship between emotions and trust and the implications it could have. So let's get started. A very important point is to correctly define emotions. There's been a lot of confusion on emotions versus moods, but a good distinction is that emotions are shorter, they're more intense, and they're more complex, and they involve cognitive appraisals. Discrete emotions form separately and vary from the beginning. Anger is formed from a perceived insult. Fear is formed from a perceived threat. So even though these are both negative experiences, they're not the same. They function differently, and they have a different locus of control. Emotions aren't static, but dynamic between people and time and contexts. And they're also not generalized. The types of emotions are integral, which are triggered by situations, and incidental, which are triggered by prior experience or totally unrelated. The functions of emotions are to signal a change in behavior, to focus on important environmental aspects, to energize adaptive behaviors. In other words, if you feel fear, you might run from something. Emotional intelligence is how someone might see or express their feelings, understand their formation, generate their feelings, and regulate and manage their emotions. And higher emotional intelligence has been linked to a better ability to trust. It's also important to correctly define trust. Barbalet calls trust the confidence that another's actions will correspond with one's expectation of them. And this is linked with reliance. Trust is a future-oriented emotion, and it's a choice. It's the basis of all social life because it induces cooperation. Trust relies on emotions. Because we can't know the future, it's not a cognitive aspect of thinking. And you can only tell if the choice to trust was a sound decision by if it was broken or justified. So you can only tell it, in a sense, in the past, if it was an accurate decision. Trust originates in a person's tendency to trust, ability to trust, and their expectations of other people's behavior. So another part that we want to talk about is how emotions and trust interact. What are the mechanics involved? Emotions affect trust decisions in a subconscious way. In other words, they kind of skirt around your cognitive thinking. And trust varies by a person's attention to their emotions. In other words, the weight that they give them, whether or not they use or guard against their emotions, how they manage their emotions, and whether or not their emotional intelligence is high or low. Emotions give signals about someone's trustworthiness and interact with the values and attitudes they have to determine their experience and their quality of trust. Complex decisions like trust are more subject to emotional influence. And emotions can affect trust in that you might be feeling emotions toward the person you're considering trusting. The decision itself might be highly emotional, and you might be emotional while making the choice to trust. Another side of the mechanics is the whole aspect of locus of control. So emotions that are caused by other people, albeit anger or gratitude, affect trust much more than those who have a personal locus of control, such as guilt or pride, or situational locus of control, such as sadness. So emotions affect who a person attributes or misattributes their emotions to. In other words, if I'm feeling anger or gratitude, I might misattribute my emotions to other people more often than if I'm feeling guilt, pride, or sadness. There are two models of the interaction between emotions and trust. One is the affect as information model, where people may misattribute emotional states into their object of trust, also known as the affective heuristic. And the affect infusion model, which is from what changes in people notice and remember in association with situations. It involves encoding and retrieval and memory processes. And these mechanics are linked to the dual systems theory of cognition, whereas system 1 takes in and ignores emotional signals. System 2 helps control the influence of emotions. And the two work together, not independently. Now let's look at how some of the individual emotions function with trust. As I stated earlier, guilt mediates between trust and ethical decisions. In other words, if I'm feeling anticipated guilt about a choice, I might be less likely to choose that option because I don't want to disappoint or hurt someone. Positive emotions increase trust the most. In other words, if you're happy or grateful, you're going to trust more. Negative emotions decrease trust the most because you're in a more scrutinizing mood. If you're sad, you're more suspicious. Anger decreases trust the most out of all of the emotions, and gratitude increases trust the most. And this is because these two emotions come from a locus of control with other people. They're caused by other people. So let's look at some of the implications of the emotions-trust relationship. As I've stated, trust can push people toward or away from ethical decisions. It can cause you to choose against your own ethics, and it can also, by anticipated guilt, push you toward your own ethics. Trust can also affect advice taking and therefore judgment accuracy. Incidental gratitude is the most trusting state to be in. So if I'm feeling gratitude that's not linked to you, I'm going to trust you more than anybody else on the planet. If I'm angry, I'm going to be the least trusting. And the more trust I have for an advisor, the more influence they have. And leaders who incite anger could be less favored. Leaders who incite gratitude could be more powerful, so it can affect the influence of leadership as well. So other implications are that the emotion and trust relationship could affect the basis of social life, which is cooperation. It's been found that if you're happy, you're going to cooperate more, and if you're in a negative state, you're going to compete more. And the relationship between emotions and trust also influences trust in websites where color, symmetry, and a cool color palette were found to increase trust. And these results vary depending on the culture of the person looking at the website, which could lead into possible applications for online classrooms and also international communications where that sensitivity would be very important to know about. So these are my references, and I thank you for your time and attention today.